Welcome, welcome, welcome to another great episode of Halftime on the Hudson. I'm your host, Gene Barbieri, and joining me is Nick Sciarrito. Nick, we've got some great stuff to talk about today. How are you doing today?
A lot better because I should have been on 2 weeks ago.
Well, we're not going to talk about that. We try to get everyone on an equal amount of times. It's better that way. And it's better today because we have a small crowd. Fun show. Not the last one was bad, but I think we're just going to jump right into this, starting with the NBA All-Star Weekend. The East won by a score of 211 to 186. You know, a high-scoring affair, to say the least.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
really?
It's definitely garnered some controversy.
Well, congratulations to the East. 211 points. Wow. I really hope the clip of Adam Silver just comes up right now of him saying, well, congratulations.
And to the Eastern Conference All-Stars, you scored the most points. Well, congratulations.
Because it wasn't even close. I mean, it was just a three-point shootout. If I'm not mistaken, the East took over 100 three-pointers in that game.
Yeah.
And it was not entertaining at all.
Every single quarter, the East put up over 50. So that's lame. But so there is a bigger story other than the score, which, I mean...
Cat had 15 lost.
Yeah.
Like the time he had 62 against the Hornets and lost.
So tell me, Nick, time to get to the big story. The three-point
story?
contest. Ooh. That's what everybody was there to see.
26 was the magic number.
And it was
in the three-point contest, it was four people had 26.
Mm-hmm.
But the most exciting part was, of course, Sabrina Ionescu versus Stephen Curry.
Mm-hmm. So Curry did end up winning by a score of 29 to 26, and it's definitely garnered a little bit of controversy in the sense that Ionescu was using the WNBA-sized ball, which, if you ask me, why would you change the ball? Like, she has been shooting with a WNBA ball her whole life. It would not be fair to change the ball. If they gave Steph Curry the WNBA ball, would that be fair? If they had Steph shoot from the women's free throw line, three-point line, would that be fair? I don't think so. I think people are just doing everything they can to hate on Ionescu. But, Nick, I'd like to know, what do you think about this?
I thought it was great. I mean, I was excited to watch
I loved it.
I was excited to watch it from the start.
Yeah.
I remember when Sabrina first beat the score record in the WNBA All-Star Weekend last season, where she had 37, only missed 2 shots, which is very impressive. Mm-hmm. I'm not exactly sure what the NBA record is. I think it might be 31 or 32, 33. You can fact check. Yep. You can fact check for that for me. So I was really excited, especially when people were asking WNBA fans, who do you think would win in a three-point shooting competition against Sabrina Ionescu? And we finally got our answer. And Kenny Smith went a little bit overboard during the broadcast, saying that she should have shot from the WNBA line. But in all honesty, I'm kind of glad she didn't, because she kind of proved that, hey, even though I'm a woman, I can still shoot from the NBA three-point range. And in all honesty, what I thought they should have done was let Sabrina do the WNBA balls from the WNBA line, Steph do the NBA balls from the NBA line, and then let them flip. Just to show, like, the difference between the two, if there even is a difference between the two. Because I know when I shoot around at the rec center at the gym here, and I'm using the women's ball, I find it a little bit easier to shoot because the ball's a little bit smaller. Mm-hmm. But to see the difference between an NBA player going from an NBA ball to a WNBA ball and a WNBA player going from the WNBA ball to the NBA ball, I thought that difference would have been nice to see.
I completely agree with you. I think that, just like you said, if they had done multiple different contests from multiple different points with different ball sizes, make it even on multiple different playing fields, I think that would have been really cool to see.
But it was, of course, perfect the way it was.
Absolutely. Too. I thought it was excellent. It was great, very entertaining, so great for the NBA and the WNBA to get all this attention. I mean, like you said, everyone was tuning in. It was just great entertainment. And There's not much more that I have
I
on
mean,
that.
I do have one more
Yeah.
thing to add.
Let's hear it.
I think the way that they went about the whole competition was a great look for the WNBA in general because there was millions of more eyes on that event, and there was probably a lot of people who didn't know who Sabrina Ionescu was before this, even though she was a great player at Oregon. She was the first overall pick in the 2020 WNBA draft, so that alone should tell you how good she was in college. And and also, if you remember in 2016 during the USA Olympic team where Brittany Griner said that she could beat DeMarcus Cousins one-on-one, and it was kind of a bad look for her. As much as I hate to say it, a lot of people was like, she's crazy.
Yeah.
But at least with this competition where it's fair, and it honestly made Sabrina look good. And that's all I can say, and I know that next year or in future years they plan to do it a little bit differently, maybe add some people like Steph getting their splash brother Klay Thompson, maybe Sabrina getting a certain college player who loves to shoot the long ball.
And that college player that you're alluding to, I would assume, is Caitlin Clark.
Absolutely.
Absolute unit out of Iowa. She just last week set the NCAA women's basketball record in scoring. She has become such a big name in college basketball. When you think college basketball, you think Caitlin Clark. I don't care who you are, who your favorite team is. Caitlin Clark always comes to mind in the college basketball setting. So, Nick, tell me a little bit about her.
She's a dog.
Yeah,
D-A-W-G, dog. I mean, she pulls up from 40 feet with ease. And honestly, I've never seen that in women's basketball before. I will be the first to admit I don't watch a lot of women's basketball or women's college basketball. But when it comes to
down from the studio on that one.
But when it comes to Caitlin Clark, she's must-see TV.
Yeah. Caitlin
And
Clark.
she's going to do wonderful things for the WNBA. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if like the Detroit Pistons wanted to sign her.
Yeah.
That's how good she is.
I mean, she is electric. She splashes buckets from all over the court. There's no guarding her. It's like you said,
like
must-see
the
TV.
game winner she had a couple, I think it was a month ago. I
Yeah.
don't remember who they played, but that
She hit that filthy, filthy shot to secure it. I mean, and also I want to talk a little bit about merchandise with Caitlin Clark. Merchandise. She has been selling her uniform and gear has been selling so much. People are eating that up. According to it's CNN here, I have Fanatics told CNN that it sold more Clark-branded merchandise than any other individual men's or women's NIL-era college athlete across all sports since 2022. And this is just recent after she broke the record. That's when they started flying off the shelves.
And you know what's the
cool.
crazy part is she's from Iowa.
Yeah.
What do they have in Iowa?
Corn,
Corn.
Slipknot, and Caitlin Clark. The big three.
I mean, that's all they need. And if I'm not mistaken, in that game where she broke the record, she had a career-high 49 points, which also broke the school record as well for most points scored in Iowa women's basketball game as well. So she's been breaking all types of records. And what's really funny is that 2 years ago, Paige Beckers was the talk of women's college basketball, and now she's been like cast off to the side. It's all Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, one of the reigning champs for LSU. She isn't really talked about. Juju Watkins from USC, even though Bronny is probably like the big story from USC right now because he's LeBron's kid. Juju Watkins is dropping 30-point games every night, and she's also not getting talked about like Caitlin Clark. So this tournament is going to be very exciting in, what is it, a month?
Just about
a month. And hopefully this time she can bring it home, and it would be one of the most impressive feats because college basketball doesn't work like the WNBA or NBA where one person can take you all the way. You need a team to do that. But last year she got to the championship game, and she played really well, but she couldn't overcome a great LSU team.
Yeah. And I think with that, we're going to move on to our final topic, which is an overview of the MLB preseason and the upcoming MLB season. So there's a lot of teams with high expectations right now. Obviously, the Dodgers with the huge Ohtani deal, all the money being deferred. Teoscar Hernandez, deferred money. Who else did they sign? They got
Yamamoto.
Yamamoto, yeah. I mean, Nick.
They're just building the Avengers over there.
Do we think that they're going to choke in the playoffs again, or do we think they're clapping in the studio? They love.
I just feel like it's
seeing Dave Roberts.
It's definitely too anticlimactic for the Dodgers to just choke it away.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time, the team that has the best record in the MLB does not make the World Series now.
I mean, just look at last year. You
the
had
Braves
the
dominated
11th place
the whole.
Diamondbacks.
I mean, the Braves dominated the whole season. They didn't even get to the championship series.
No, they got knocked
the
out.
ALCS or NLCS. And 2 years ago, the Dodgers had one of the best records in the league. They did not get to the NLCS. So the way that it's looking for the Dodgers, you just have to get hot at the right time, as it usually is in baseball. And they have the team to do it. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Yamamoto, who's probably going to be, or better be a superstar, considering that he's getting paid $300 million. Yeah. And, of course, Ohtani is going to be Ohtani, who's the unanimous #1 player in the MLB right now. They have, of course, the talent to win it all. But the most important thing is getting hot at the right time, which we've seen over and over again, that it doesn't matter how good you are in the regular season. You just have to play well in the postseason. And the Dodgers just haven't done that since, 2020?
Yeah, 2020 was the year. And I like that point you bring up about how historically the best team doesn't always win. Look at the 2001 Mariners, 116 wins, setting the record, lost to the Yankees in the ALCS 4-1. So can the Dodgers do it? I don't know. They should, but there's other contending teams that are huge right now. Look at the up-and-coming Orioles. Look at the Astros. We're not even talking about the Rangers. They're the reigning champions. I don't think they're going to win again. I think that might have been a fluke.
I think the
Mariners are excellent.
They were expected to be good last year, and they did not live up to those expectations. But I think there's a good chance that they could make some noise this year. Yeah. Of course, I'm not going to rule out our Yankees.
Of course.
You can't rule them out.
And that is a team I wanted to touch on a little bit.
I will rule out the Red Sox, though.
Oh, the AL East is going to be – shut up, Jimmy.
That was
Resident
only for
Red
Jimmy.
Sox fan.
That was
sad,
only for Jimmy.
sad Red Sox fan.
That was only for Jimmy.
Well, the AL East – yeah, screw you, Jimmy. The AL East is going to be a bloodbath. You have 4 playoff contending teams. We've got the Rays, Yankees, Orioles. We've got the Blue Jays, and then the Red Sox down there at the bottom of the podium. They're mediocre, but mediocre in such a heated division.
I mean, for them, being mediocre is being above 500. Or, I mean, have you seen the pictures of Rafael Devers?
Yes, I have.
With that massive weight gain that he's got in, that is not a good look. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's either playing first base or is getting traded. And probably to the Dodgers.
And
for them to lose in the first round.
Yeah. Have you seen Giancarlo Stanton?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I have.
He has slimmed down. He's told the press that he wants to go for more of an athletic baseball player look. He wants to get back to a baseball player's build, just like the 2017 MVP caliber season. Not caliber. He was the MVP.
He was the MVP.
The MVP season he had with the Marlins. So with him coming back, we have Jason Dominguez, who might come back from injury, hopefully sooner rather than later. Looking for a bounce back from Carlos Rodon. We have also just signed huge super slugger, the biggest signing, one of the biggest signings of the offseason.
Was it a trade for Soto?
Yes.
The trade for Soto?
Trade for Soto. So we've got him and Judge. Big G coming back with all that weight loss. I mean, the Yankees have high expectations. I think they could turn a lot of
For the
heads
Yankees,
this year.
the most important thing, of course, is what Giancarlo Stanton's going to do, because chances are they're going to have Soto bat 2, Judge bat 3, and then Stanton bat 4, and see how Rizzo might play into that mix.
I'm excited to see Rizzo come back. He's not concussed anymore, allegedly. And
of course, we never got this And he was playing really well before he got those concussions as well with the new rule changes. He's also getting older, which is a concern. But it really depends on Stanton because if he doesn't hit like that 2017 version of him, which I don't think he's going to because he's also getting pretty old. But if he can be that 2021 version of him where he's like 270 with 30 home runs, that's going to make it so much easier for Soto and Judge to actually get pitches thrown to them because both of them are going to have 400 on-base percentages.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's going to be people on base, not only for Judge to hit, because I expect Soto to be on base because he walks a lot.
Yeah, he walks a lot.
Every
Judge
time.
walks a lot.
But Judge is going to be on base a lot. But Stanton is going to get those pitches, and he usually can't hit anything that's like not in the strike zone.
Right.
And if it's not a meatball down the middle, he just seems to have trouble with it. But
He
if
seems
he
to
can
get hot and
hit,
cold.
if he can give me like 270, that's going to be huge for the Yankees. And I want your opinion on how you think the Yankees pitching staff is going to be, especially with the addition of Marcus Stroman.
Honestly, I think unless they were to sign Tyler Glasnow, I'm sorry, not Glasnow, Blake Snell.
Blake Snell.
Sorry about that. If they sign Snell, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. The Yankees always seem to be missing that one piece. I mean, we just lost Luis Severino, even though he had a bad season. He was excellent. Domingo Germán, another one-hit wonder player with that perfect game. I'm a little bit worried about the Yankees' pitching rotation. With Nestor Cortez coming back, that's going to be awesome. He's going to be electric. He was looking excellent in spring training. We have, obviously, Garrett Cole coming off a Cy Young season. And now we have just added Marcus Stroman, who I believe will be serviceable. If you look at his stats, he's always been, decent to pretty good, kind of hovering around that limbo of mediocrity. But, I mean, if we can get him as like our number 3 guy, he just comes in, locks down, leaves it to the offense. I'm happy with that. We still have a young bullpen, so if we can develop those arms in the bullpen a little bit, I think that would be good.
I mean, usually the Yankees are pretty good with developing their relievers as they've been since, I feel like, I don't know.
Since Mariano Rivera.
Exactly, because even when he wasn't the closer and when they had Jeff Nelson back there, they were still pretty filthy, and they've been consistent in the bullpen since the late 1990s. So the bullpen for me isn't the biggest concern. Also, Tommy Kahnle is coming back as well.
From the Dodgers.
It's always, for me, since 2017, when they've become legitimate contenders, it's always been the pitching. And I think, hopefully, Marcus Stroman doesn't forget how to pitch because a lot of starting pitchers that come to the Yankees, they can't pitch.
They can't handle
my
the
perfect
pressure.
example is Sonny Gray, who was terrible with the Yankees.
Goes straight to
but
the
last year, he was second in the Cy Young Award voting. And Marcus Stroman was an all-star last year. And he's been under a 4 ERA, and I can live with that as a Yankees fan. Not to mention, Garrett Cole has been consistently one of the best pitchers in baseball. He doesn't really fluctuate. Like a lot of pitchers, they go up and down. He's been fairly consistent. So I just hope that he doesn't get hurt, and usually he hasn't been hurt. And that's the one thing that I really love about Garrett Cole, or probably one of the more underrated things about Garrett Cole, is that he doesn't have injuries. And if he's there for 33 games, we're probably going to win 20 to 25 of those games this year.
I would say so. And I think with that, we're going to kick things over to our debate panel. Prove your point. We have an electric matchup coming. Stay tuned.
I'll be there.
Yes, he will. Welcome back, everybody, to Prove Your Point, where today we're back at it with another fiery, electric, absolutely thunderous debate here in Studio A at Marist College. Guys, let's jump right into this. On my left, the co-host, you all know him, Nick Sharito. Thank you. Pleasure to have you here.
My sports analytics buddy.
Oh, that's right. And you know what else is right? On my right, reigning champion. You all know him from the last episode. Bring him in. Strobe lights, Jimmy. Michael DeJesus. Michael, absolute pleasure to have you on the show once again to defend the title. How do you feel?
I feel confident. Feel great.
That's
to
awesome.
Be back here.
It's exactly what we want to hear. And you know what the fans want to hear? Our live audience, who will happen to be voting on this, by the way.
Didn't you just say in the opening segment that everybody has to have a fair chance? The love has to be spread around. How does he get on twice?
Well, you see, the cool thing about being a producer is you get to pick and you get to choose whatever you want. I'm kind of like a dictator. That being said, we did have a little bit of a problem. Nobody wanted to be on the show today, probably because everyone's lame. But you know what's not lame is our topics.
Yeah, just remember the last time I was on it, I was robbed.
Yeah.
Just roll the clip.
All
Just
right.
roll the clip.
Have spoken. The winner of this episode of Prove Your Point goes to none other than Marley Pope.
Yeah, see, I told you.
Do you have anything to say? Propaganda
clip.
Against halftime on the Hudson. We've got a first topic coming at you. Guys, who's the face of the NBA right now? We're going to start things off with the co-host, Nick.
Well, the question is who's the next face of the NBA? Because right now it's still LeBron and Steph Curry.
Yeah, well.
But
go on.
there's some criteria that need to be made for the next face of the NBA. So one of them is you have to be really, really good.
My first impression of NBA competition, that people in the NBA are really good.
Okay. LeBron James, if you think about previous faces of the NBA, LeBron James, and I'll throw Steph Curry in there. Kobe Bryant, you throw in Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, Magic, Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. All of them are in the conversation for top 10 player of all time. Second, you have to have a personality. Now, one of the players I did not mention was Tim Duncan, who won 5 championships, 2 MVPs, accomplished more in his career than Kobe Bryant, but he was never considered the face of the NBA, not over Kobe or Shaq. And last but not least, the third criteria, and it's kind of a sad criteria, is that they have to be American-born, which is why I'm going to go with Ja Morant. And trust me, there are a lot of good American-born players. Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards. Those are the main other two outside of Ja who could potentially be the next face of the NBA. But I think Ja Morant has the best chance to be the next face of the NBA because he's really good. Right now he's out of the picture, so he's kind of been forgotten about. But the Grizzlies, the last 2 seasons, were the 2 seeds. He's an exciting player. He has a great personality, and hopefully he gets those off-the-court issues fixed. Keep in mind, Kobe Bryant also had some off-the-court issues as well and was still the face of the NBA. And out of Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, and Ja Morant, I feel like when it comes to winning, he's just going to have the most success. Now, Jason Tatum is in the perfect position to win the championship this year. But going forward, I think Ja Morant has by far the best chance of being the next face of the NBA.
All right. He's made some pretty good points, but now I'd like to hear what Michael has to say.
You know, I think my opponent brings up a great point about Ja Morant, but it's simply wrong. I think the next face of the NBA is Victor Wembanyama. Now, I know it's early, but I think the talent is clear to see on the screen. Even though his team has not been successful, he's on an 11-win team. The Spurs are still bringing themselves attention. Let's look at the TV ratings. They're actually up 54% just because of Victor Wembanyama alone. Now, let's look at the stats. There's 2 players this season that's averaging 20 points and 10 rebounds and playing under 30 minutes. One of them is Victor Wembanyama. It's clear that even though he's in his rookie season...
Who's the other? I just want to know.
I don't know who the other is, actually. But he's one of the players. And, you know, I think...
I just wanted to know.
You know, I think Ja Morant, I think his character issues take away from the image of the league. I think he's a distraction not only to his team, but to all those watching around. You know, he single-handedly brought Memphis to attention. He brought them to the forefront. Without them, they kind of surfaced below the edge. They're, you know, a below 500 team. They're not even worth watching anymore. Even though the Spurs have not reached success, they look to be on the uprise. They're a young team that could rebuild, while the Grizzlies, they don't really have much to build around. You see they've lost pieces like Dillon Brooks, and they don't look the same as they did last year.
Well, that's because everybody's been hurt. John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane. I know they just traded away Steven Adams, but he was a big part of that.
Well, if you're the
they've
face,
all
you
been
should.
hurt.
If you're the face, you should be the leader of your team without supporting roles. Look at Victor Wembanyama. He doesn't have supporting players. He doesn't have a number two. Yet he's still kind of leading his team to being relevant, even though they really shouldn't be.
We're talking about the face of the NBA, and you're saying that John Morant should be a leader when he's not on the court.
I mean, he's not.
He is a leader when he's not on the court.
The face of the NBA needs to be a leader on and off the court.
John Morant is both of that.
How is he a leader off the court?
Who has the loudest voice in that locker room?
John Morant, but is it a voice of positivity? No.
Yes.
Clearly,
yes,
he's brought negative attention to the Grizzlies. What benefit has he brought as a leader? His tactics on the court,
where were the
dancing
Grizzlies
and celebrating.
before John Morant?
Irrelevant. And where are they now? Irrelevant.
No, they're
it's the
irrelevant because they're hurt. They're not irrelevant because John.
It's the same result, though. John Morant has not changed the overall lay of the franchise. As opposed to the Spurs, they're on the up and up. They are in conversations to trade like a player like DeJounte
Murray. Better than the Spurs when everybody is back and healthy, and more specifically,
we're
John
working
Morant.
on hypotheticals.
When John Morant came back this season,
fellas, let's leave some gas in the tank for the other segments.
When John Morant came back this season, the Grizzlies were a lot better than they were without him. How is that not affecting winning at all? Of course he's affecting winning. He's affecting winning as soon as he got there.
For a couple
no
games,
one thought
but he was
that
injured.
the Grizzlies were going to be competitive when he got there.
But what do we have now? We have
Victor
Wembanyama, who's leading Rookie of the Year.
All right.
Clearly,
I think you've both made some pretty excellent points.
And the fans Finals his third season.
And Victor Wembanyama, with absolutely no help, is going to be Rookie of the Year and is averaging 20 and 10.
Well, I agree with
when
you
John Morant came back and immediately got injured.
What personality does Victor Wembanyama have? He doesn't have the biggest. He doesn't have the biggest.
If you really want to look at what kind
also,
of personality does John Morant have?
All right.
John Morant doesn't have a personality.
The fans have already voted. Guys, the ballots have been cast. You can talk all you want, but that won't change the outcome past this point, which is why we need to move to our next topic. Let's flip the script, head over to the NFL. Guys, where's Mike Evans going to land? Michael, I'd love to know your thoughts.
I think I think this is one of the most interesting free agents we've seen in a long time. He's 31 years old. He has age on him. But I think he should go to the Ravens. The Ravens' main struggle has been wide receiver. They've gone almost 6 years without having a wide receiver over 1,000 yards. Their last receiver to record over 1,000 yards, Mike Wallace. I think if the Ravens really want to seek, past the AFC Championship, be a real contender in the Super Bowl, I think they have to clearly make a move and get a true number one receiver. The narrative has been Lamar Jackson hasn't had help. They drafted Zay Flowers last year. He had a great rookie season. Mark Andrews, after suffering an injury, came back in the playoffs, served as a pivotal role in that offense. But still, the Ravens lack a true number one wide receiver. Mike Evans can fit in that role very nicely. He, just like on Tampa Bay, can share the workload between Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. And I think this offense would truly work greatly if Lamar Jackson had an over-the-top target like Mike Evans. I think Baltimore should absolutely seek him. They should be the number one target.
Well, my point about the Ravens not having a number one wide receiver, technically they do, which is Mark Andrews, even though he's a tight end, just like how the Chiefs' number one receiver is Travis Kelce, even though he's a tight end. But I'll just leave that alone for now. But the team that Mike Evans is going to go to, he's probably just going to stay in Tampa Bay. Because when you look at, Mike Evans is looking between $25 and $30 million. And when you look at the teams that can afford that, most of them are bad. And Mike Evans is not going to go to a bad team that have bad quarterback situations. Now, the most interesting one might be the Bears, depending if they draft Caleb Williams or not. They have a lot of cap space. But most of the teams that have that cap space to sign him are, one, bad, or two, they're young and they're going to spend, or they're prioritizing different positions, or they're going to end up having to pay those young guys a large sum of money. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is probably the perfect situation for him to, one, he gets his money, and two, they have a consistent quarterback play in Baker Mayfield if he resigns. Now, I know Baker Mayfield doesn't want to resign unless Mike Evans is back. So priority number one for the Buccaneers is to get Mike Evans. And also, the Ravens right now, they don't have the cap space to sign Mike Evans. So I don't see how he's going to the Ravens.
Well, you mentioned cap space. I think if you look at the free agent class, I think they are going to move off key pieces. I don't think they're going to sign Patrick Queen, which is going to be a big hit to their defense. I think he had a great season.
What about Justin Matabuke? You think they should prioritize signing him back? He was one of the 4 best defensive tackles this year. In my opinion, he should have been All-Pro over Aaron Donald. He was All-Pro second team. I thought he should have been first team over Aaron Donald.
But you mentioned, having free agents coming up. I think the Ravens have to understand that they can rebuild the defense. I think John Harbaugh is a great defensive coach. I think they should look towards the draft and drafting those younger pieces like they have. They found that Patrick Queen late in the first round a couple years ago. They seem to always have success drafting on the defensive side. But you mentioned, these upcoming free agents. Tampa Bay is going to have a lot of expiring contracts coming up. They're going to have Devin White. They're going to have Antoine Winfield. They're going to have Tristan Wirfs. These are key pieces of that, Super Bowl winning team from a couple years ago that they're going to have to re-sign. Do they really want to invest their money in a 31-year-old Mike Evans, who, yes, although he has been consistent, recording, I believe, is 1,000-yard.
I think it's 10.
Now it's 10. I don't think they're going to want to invest in a 31-year-old when they do have weapons. They have a Cade Otton. They have a Chris Godwin. That do mesh well with Baker Mayfield, but I don't think they're going to want to invest their money in a 31-year-old wide receiver when it hasn't really looked well. Look at a team like the Rams. Cooper Kupp signed a contract right after his Triple Crown season and suffered injuries, and he's up there in age. So you have to put into question whether this is where Tampa Bay should really lie in putting their money.
But is that also where the Ravens should lie their money in when they have an upcoming receiver in Zay Flowers, who definitely has the potential to be a number 1 receiver and would be a great number 2 next to Mark Andrews. The only reason Mark Andrews did not have that great of a season this year was because he's hurt. Not to mention that the reason that the Ravens were big bad boys this year was because of how great that defense is. They need to prioritize.
Well, their defense didn't really come into the clutch, really, when it mattered. You saw their defense really shrink against teams like Kansas City.
Kansas City scored 17 points.
Well, they didn't stop.
Lamar Jackson didn't do his job. That's why they lost that game.
And why didn't he do his job? He doesn't have a reliable weapon.
Because
Devin Duvernay is not a reliable weapon. Mark Andrews was not a reliable weapon. Isaiah Likely is not a reliable weapon. In Lamar's career, can you name one receiver that has been reliable for him? Signing an old Odell Beckham will not solve your problem. He needs a clear number 1, and that clear number 1 that they can go get. And what success has Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson had together as a pair? How far have they gone?
The AFC Championship game.
And what happened?
They lost to the Chiefs. Because
why? Let's look at. I could name a specific play.
Chiefs defense,
where the Ravens could have used a Mike Evans.
Let's take it down a notch a little bit.
Let's look at that deep pass to Isaiah Likely that got intercepted in double coverage.
Let's look at
that. Was a bad decision by Lamar
Jackson.
Mike Evans would have caught that. Mike Evans simply would have caught that ball because he is able to create that separation.
You've both made your points. This is getting heated. Is this not the greatest debate show on the planet? Probably not, but it's up there.
You're better than First Take. Give me Stephen A. Smith. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'll take Shannon Sharp.
I'll take Gene Barbieri as the host. We're going to move on to the third topic now.
We'll bring you on.
Nice. We're going to kick things over to the third topic now. We're going to loop back to the NBA, and we're going to find out who is the biggest threat to the Celtics right now. Nick, the floor is yours.
Man, well, just before I get started, John Brickley, professor here at Marist College, I have a bet with him. Celtics versus the field. And I'm not going to lie, it's not looking good for me. Now, I don't lose anything in the bet, but I would love to see him wear a Knicks jersey for a whole semester. But
is that really the bet, a whole semester?
He has to wear a Knicks jersey for the whole semester. But the biggest threat to the Boston Celtics is the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, the Eastern Conference is so top-heavy right now. It's the Celtics than everyone else. Now, I know when you look at – now, the Heat are definitely always going to be in question because they do this every year. They suck, and then they're good in the playoffs. I hate that they're like that because they tease us. Nobody likes to be teased, okay? But other young up-and-coming teams like the Pacers, they don't play defense, right? The Magic, they're just still too young. The 76ers, Joel Embiid just can't beat the Celtics whenever they match up in the playoffs. And then the Cavs and the Knicks, they're in that weird iffy tier where if the matchup is right, they can get to the conference finals, if not the NBA finals. But the odds of them beating the Celtics are kind of low, which is why the Bucks are kind of by default their biggest threat, because they have Giannis and Dame. Now, I know that their defense has been very suspect all year. But one, they've actually played against the Celtics really well both times. Now, the first time they played, they lost by 3 points, 116 to 113, and went down to the wire. And the second time they played, it was a little bit of a scheduling conflict for the Celtics because they just played 5 games in 7 days. But the Bucks mopped the floor with them. But just based off of having Giannis and Dame alone, they are easily the biggest threat to the Celtics because Giannis almost beat the Celtics 2 years ago without having his second best player.
You have anything to counter that?
This
Michael?
hurts for me to say because I do hate this team. But the biggest threat to the Boston Celtics are the Knicks.
I like that answer.
Orange and blue skies, and this kills me to say, but this team has been electric. I think this has been the best team in New York, arguably in the last 10 years. You have the All-Stars, Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. They're the pillars of this franchise. Under Tom Thibodeau, I think this team has looked great both offensively and defensively. Then you have interesting pieces. Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, the Villanova trio. I think they have been great additions to this Knicks team. They bring all ranges on defense and offense. Actually, Dante DiVincenzo, he's averaging a career high in points. Josh Green is averaging a career high in three-point percentage. Then at the trade deadline, they go get Boban Bogdanovic. He's a 41% three-point shooter. He adds another layer of depth, that 3-and-D guy that's going to add with OG Anunoby to kind of give trouble to players like Jason Tatum, give problems to players like Jaylen Brown, who they have struggled, when they face that kind of heated defense that a Tom Thibodeau team gives them. And you bring up the Bucks, and I think we have to bring up the big elephant in the room. They're led by Doc Rivers now. Yeah. And Doc Rivers is questionable. When we're looking at the postseason, we have to look at success. And Doc Rivers has had a career of not being successful. He's 16-33 when he has 3 wins in 7-game series. He's 7. Tom Thibodeau is 7-7 against the Bucks, which is a better record than a lot of head coaches in the NBA. He's been able to give the Celtics actually trouble all along his Knicks tenure, and the Bucks, they look questionable. So. Since getting Doc Rivers, they've rated 19th in defensive efficiency. The Knicks have rated top 10 all throughout the season. So when you're really looking at how to shut down a player like a Jason Tatum, like a Jaylen Brown, I don't think you could rely on Doc Rivers to coach a team, even with Giannis and Dame being the defensive liability that he's shown to be this season. I think the Knicks just have the pair of pieces to actually give the Celtics the most trouble and possibly get to the finals.
Well, as a diehard Knicks fan, I have to agree with a majority of those points outside of the fact that, 1, Julius Randle may miss the rest of the season. Number 2, Julius Randle also has not performed well in the playoffs. And one of the biggest reasons why the Knicks aren't as big of a threat to the Celtics as the Bucks are is because they just don't have the experience that the Bucks have had. Giannis Antetokounmpo has won a championship. Now, I know that Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Dante
Giannis has also been bounced out in the first round by an 8th seed. I mean, experience, is great. Don't get me wrong. You always need that veteran. You always need that veteran presence. But, you have to look at what we have right now. What we have right now is a team that is questionable defensively. Yes, they may have an offensive presence, but both the Knicks and the Bucks rate top 10 in the league in offensive efficiency. So if you take that out, you have to really look at the defensive aspect. And when you look at it, it clearly states that the Knicks are a better team defensively. And let's look at the Bucks, the Bucks' recent losses. They have questionable losses. Losses to the Jazz, the Heat, the Grizzlies, and the Blazers, all teams below 500. When you look at it, I think Doc Rivers is going to lead this team to the wrong way. We don't even know if they're going to beat teams like an Indiana, like a Philadelphia, because of the questionable sites that we see on defense.
Well, for one, if the playoffs were to start right now, and assuming Joel Embiid is healthy, the Knicks would have to play the 76ers. That's not going to be the best matchup for them because I know the 76ers have killed the Knicks outside of that first game they played against this season, which I was very happy about. But more importantly, the Knicks just don't play the Celtics very well. Now, they did last season, but not so far this season. We also haven't gotten the opportunity You see them with the new roster.
Saturday on ESPN, we'll get our first opportunity. So if you see the Knicks beat the Bucks or beat the Celtics,
I've seen the Bucks play better against the Celtics this year than any other team outside of the Nuggets and the Clippers. Those,
I think it's definitely questionable. We have to see what this retooled Knicks team may look like. With if OG
I'm going to agree
plays,
with you on that. But
we don't know what this team looks like.
A history of running his players into the ground.
And Doc Rivers has a history of losing in the playoffs.
Okay, guys.
The engine of this
Doc
team
Rivers
is
has
time
a history of losing
where
in
I
the playoffs.
cut you
It's
both
clear.
off. You've both proved your point.
History
if you're a
speaks.
Celtics
And I
fan,
believe-
would you
won't
rather
win. I think
face
it's
off
clear.
against Jalen
I would rather
Brunson?
that
think
mail
the
come in a
Celtics
little
would rather
sooner
face
because
off
this
against
debate
Jalen. Would rather
is
play the Bucks.
over.
No, it's not.
And the
It's over
votes
when I
from
say
our
it's over.
live
We'd
studio
rather play the
audience
Knicks.
are in.
My
Here
voice
comes
can't handle this.
I think
Mr.
it's very
Producer
clear.
Man, Jimmy Tsiantoulas,
I
to
gotta
deliver
stop
the
looking
votes.
at the monitor. I just look too sexy.
Before I
Tell
go, I gotta say this was easily the most fiery debate
I've
been a
got
part of.
and Fuego. This is
I gotta
good
stop
luck.
looking at the monitor.
Good luck
I
to
look
both
too
of you two.
sexy. I look too sexy.
so.
Don't get distracted.
Drum roll, please. By a score of 2-1, Nick Cerrito takes the W. Nick, what do you have to say for yourself?
I'm right again. I'm usually am right. I should have won last time. Yeah. My next opponent should be Stephen A. Smith, because he doesn't know a single thing about anything ever, and I know everything about everything. I'm just kidding.
Well, it seemed like Michael was a pretty formidable opponent. Yeah, go pick up that paper. Michael, while he's reading the scraps, what do you have to say for yourself about this crushing loss following your victory, making you 1-1 on the season?
Definitely disagree with the ruling, but I respect the game. I think Nick was a great opponent. He brought up some really, really good points. He was meeting my energy. It's exactly what you're looking for in these debates, and I look forward maybe a rematch, and seeking out this kind of rebound.
Yeah, I've got to say, that was one of our better debates. Guys, don't go anywhere yet because we still have one more segment. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming on the show. Let's kick it back to the desk.
I'm still going to be on the show after this.
I said we were going back to the desk, but here we are in the same spot. The only thing different is a wardrobe change. Guys, we're introducing a new segment. Everyone knows and loves our segment where we do the Immaculate Grid or the Hoop Grid, but in this case, we're doing the first ever halftime on the Hudson Immaculate Hoop Grid battle between the same two people from the debate show. The aim of the game is to get the Hoop Grid completed, all 9, quicker than the other person. Pretty simple, self-explanatory. Do you guys have anything to say before we start?
Do we want to show them the Hoop Grid first? Because it's a very interesting one.
They'll see it. Yeah, they'll see it right down there for you and down there for Michael. So, I guess on the count of 3.
How do you want us to start this? Do you want us to click on the panel first, or do we want to do hands behind our backs?
Let's do hands up in the air or behind the back, either one. And we'll just count down from 3, and you guys will get started. 3, 2, 1, battle it out. So let's get a little bit of commentary. Who do we have coming in on this side? Already, Nick is out to a quick start. Who did you get there? I can't even see. He's typing so fast. Magic Johnson played in the 90s and played in the 80s. That's a weird topic. Let's go over to Michael. He's already got Scottie Pippen in the bottom right. Going in for Larry Bird. He gets it off with 1.81%. Going over to Cerrito. He's already got 5. Look at this guy. Who's he putting it in? He's going crazy with 5.
God.
Back over to Michael.
Ridiculous.
Scrolling through. He's wrong. Wow, only at 2. Nick's got a crazy advantage here as Michael floundering, trying his hardest to get that grid completed. But Nick has not made any ground yet.
What are you talking about?
Well, he actually just made 2 in a row, so all right. With only 2 to go, Nick is in the driver's seat, pedal to the metal, while Michael has only 4 to show. He's going for Jordan. It's good. Over here, just 1 to go for Nick. Everyone knows that this guy knows ball. This is a difficult opponent to go against. Do you have anything to say as you type in that final one?
Tony Kukoc's name.
You have to figure it out, dude. That's going to give Michael a chance to maybe come back a little bit. How many does he have? I can't see. He's scrolling through the names right now.
Done.
We've got a winner with a score of, I can't see the score. What is that? 44.97. Nick, is the first ever champion of our Immaculate Hoop Grid Battle. Do you guys have anything to say for yourself on this new wonderful segment?
I smoked.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
You know the ball.
you got smoked. But there's always next time. And I think with that, that's going to do it for this episode of Prove Your Point. I'm Gene Barbieri.
This is Prove Your Point.
Did I say that? Well, that's actually not what this is. So, for the final time, this has been the Immaculate Grid Battle for Gene Barbieri, Nick Sciarrito, and Michael
Mahomes.
Jesus, and Patrick Mahomes. Have a good night.